Greetings and welcome to the Dr. J blog series. It's Sunday, February 8th, 2026, and if you're in the United States, that means it's Super Bowl Sunday, a rematch of the 2015 clash between the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. The latter team won back in 2015. We'll see what happens later today. But here we're focusing on the next installment of the Thoughts and Reflections mini-series, and we're specifically going to be looking at the issue of mindful breathing and taking control of your mental health. So first, a brief refresher on a couple of things we talked about over the last 2 or 3 sessions, and then we're going to be doing this deeper dive into mindful breathing and what we can learn about ourselves from our breathing. So as a reminder, the main objective here is to quiet the mind. That's what we need to do in order to reclaim our mental health. And to do this, I've suggested there are a few key steps you want to begin to train yourself to do each and every day. So first, you have to commit to spending some time by yourself, preferably in the morning and evening hours. As often as you're able, but certainly at the beginning, you want to be able to try to do this at least once in the morning and once in the evening. Second, you want to be able to sit up comfortably, someplace, somewhere, again, where it's quiet, where you're alone. And that means without your phone or with your phone on silent, ideally without your phone altogether. No computer, no noise, no distractions of any kind, ideally. And then what you're going to do is work on quieting your mind by not really thinking about anything. And that's a challenge. So what you want to do then is just focus on your breathing. If thoughts come into your head, that's fine. That's going to happen from time to time. But just observe them almost as you would a cloud passing through the sky. Let go. And instead, just do your best to return to exclusively focusing on your breathing. And taking deep breaths in through your nose, holding for a moment, and then exhaling through your mouth. And if you can do that, you're well on your way to reclaiming some peacefulness, your mindfulness. Okay? And so what we're doing is, this is actually called mindful breathing, or if you like, you could call it breathing meditation. Many forms of meditation require a focus on breathing as a means of entering into a deeper state. So again, for us, we're just focusing now initially on the mindful breathing aspect, regardless of the content of other forms of meditation. And so done properly, mindful breathing itself can just help calm your mind and ideally empty your mind of thoughts and then the stress and worry that often attach to our thoughts. So the key again is to focus on our breath and allow ourselves to be immersed in the present moment. That's the key. We're not thinking about what just happened or being concerned about the future. It's the best way that I know of to intentionally commit to relaxing. And relaxation, as with sleep, is absolutely vital to our mental health and well-being. Too many of us are, programmed to be constantly on the move, to have something present, something stimulating us at all times, like our phones or our computers or something on the radio in the car or the television at home, whatever. And that's the byproduct of our cultural training, of course, as well as our love for the dopamine hits that we get from liking stuff on TikTok or YouTube or the television, etc. Okay, and yet what we really need is peace and quiet. Even at times when we're not just sitting to practice mindfulness. But I find it's a lot like drinking water for most people. That is, we know we're supposed to ideally drink several glasses each day, and yet somehow we don't drink enough. We don't seem to get around to it often enough. And as you practice mindful breathing, it's the same issue. You need to commit to doing it at least a couple of times a day, and then the problem is so often we don't follow through. Okay, so that's challenge number 1, setting aside the time and then committing to the practice of mindful breathing. And if you do that, you're going to find your mind wandering a bit, like I said in the beginning, but that's okay. You're learning. Okay, it's if your mind starts to wander, just refocus on the breathing. And it takes time, but you're doing this to develop this notion of a stable mind, stabilization, and a stable mind is a more relaxed and resilient mind. And in the course of the day, you can practice mindfulness and mindful breathing just about any time. You could do it right now, for example. In fact, let's try it just for a moment, just as a reminder. So what does it involve? Being quiet, being still. Obviously, you wouldn't be listening to me, but you're in your room, you're somewhere by yourself, you're alone, no phone, no distractions, etc. Close your eyes, sit up straight, breathe in through your nose. Again, pause for a couple of moments after you inhale and then breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose. And so on. That's the basic idea. Doing it all your lives without knowing it. But now you want to be very conscious and mindful of the technique and the actual type of breathing that you're doing. You want to breathe properly. Now, just in general, what you should also do is start to become aware of, if you're not already, the signs of your own breathing or what your breathing's trying to tell you. So we all engage in different forms of breathing beyond mindfulness breathing. And this is something you want to keep your eyes open for, or your ears listening for, right? So for example, if you have shallow chest-only breathing, rather than deeper breathing into your belly, then that's a sign that typically of some kind of stress. The air is not getting in deeply, right? And when you're holding your breath, which we all do from time to time as well, we tend to hold our breath in moments of anxious expectation, such as when, we're going to check our email and see how people are going to respond to something. Then there's loud breathing, over breathing, or forced breathing. Even if done unconsciously, it's a sign that we're probably we're trying too hard, we're too tight, we need to just relax. If you have a longer inhale and a quick exhale, right? An impatient exhale could be a sign of nervousness because we're trying to take in more air than we actually are able to release. So be aware of that. And then there's, of course, irregular breathing, interrupted breathing, sometimes called, which is also a general sign of stress. And then it exacerbates the stress as well by limiting the oxygen that the body receives. And then there's similarly or relatedly shortness of breath, the inability to breathe in as deeply as we like. That, of course, could be a warning sign. It commonly occurs in people who already have pre-existing heart and lung conditions. But in serious cases, then, shortness of breath can be a sign of something traumatic happening, like a pulmonary embolism, in my case, which I've talked about, or it could be a sign of an asthma or a heart attack. And then there's mouth breathing. So normal breathing and healthy breathing should occur through the nose. And this provides, if you breathe through your nose, it provides the body with this warmed air. It's been filtered by the cilia in our noses and endowed as well with nitric oxide, which is a good thing. So breathing through your mouth, though, can be a sign of stress or an obstruction, an airway obstruction, or what have you. And it can also lead to other negative things, too, for an extended period of time. So like bacterial infection, believe it or not, and tooth decay, poor posture, and reduced sleep quality. And then finally, rapid breathing. Our respiratory rate's a key marker of our wellness. And one study even found that rapid breathing can be a better indicator of your overall health than blood pressure and pulse rate. And so just be aware of this. So in adults, a respiratory rate of at least 20 per minute, 20 breaths per minute, or over 20 breaths per minute, that's typically a sign of a problem. It might be an indication of a panic attack, but something else could be wrong. It could be carbon monoxide poisoning. It could be an infection of some kind that's plaguing you, or even, again, a sign of heart or lung disease. So again, these are just several physical indicators from our breathing habits. And in addition, as already mentioned then, breathing meditation helps us to stabilize the mind and exerts a calming influence. Will you be mentally whole and healthy after just a few days or even weeks of mindful breathing? Probably not. But the key is to start, right? And so here's what you'll see almost immediately. You'll be calmer. You'll start to release the stress that you're experiencing, perhaps, especially if it's chronic. Just like that kind of 5-minute shower immediately provides you with some relief for the body. Most of us immediately feel a little bit better after we've had a good warm shower. And similarly, then the 5-minute mindful breathing practice can immediately provide you with some relief from your mind. And again, there are usually additional benefits right away. Right? A contented mind appreciates more, makes better decisions, and has a better and more positive perception of the world. And so, in short, a calmer mind, that in and of itself, regardless of what else is happening, can typically make us happier and more peaceful. Now, the deepest progress will be made quite gradually. But as I say, some benefits will appear rather quickly. So it's important then to commit regularly, daily, to mindful breathing. Even if it's just for 2 or 3 minutes, that's a good start. What you want to do is start to build the consistency of your practice, of your habit. And of course, over time, like most things, the more we do it, the better we're going to get. All right, the greater the benefits. And studies of those who've spent at least 1,000 hours in meditation have revealed the following benefits: improved focus and more accurate and efficient use of working memory. They've also been able to document shrinkage in areas of the brain that are responsible for attachment, grasping. And we also see significantly improved retention of gray matter, even though we're all aging, or despite aging, if you're literally amongst the senior citizen crowd, such as yours truly. And then we'll also see, again, over an extended period of time, a lower basal heart rate and blood pressure, among other, benefits. And then as your practice surpasses over the longer term 10,000 hours, the brain of lifetime meditators has been shown to have significant positive changes, again, even when they're not meditating. Okay, so as a final example, let's return to this analogy of brushing our teeth. So I used to be terrible. I used to brush my teeth, but I used to be terrible about not flossing my teeth. I brushed regularly, but I rarely flossed. And I thought, okay, I'm doing the right thing, right? Well, no. So as a result, I'd still be getting cavities and suffering tooth decay, not just in childhood, but throughout my adulthood. And then almost a decade ago, what happened was I visited my sister-in-law in England, Farhonde, and then and her husband, Luqman, who happens to be a dentist. And so first, Luqman gave me some free dental care, which was great, and he fixed a few of my problems. But more importantly, even though I was in my 50s, right, I looked, listened, and learned from him firsthand the wisdom and the practice of daily oral care. He was the dental kung fu master, if you will, and I was his student. And so I learned from the master, and I developed the habit of flossing daily. And by the way, sometimes more than once a day these days. And that has made all the difference. And now I literally cannot help but spend at least some time every day flossing. And guess what? My teeth are way healthier than ever. And so that's what we need to do with our mental health. Self-consciously build in the metaphorical practice of flossing one's mind on a daily basis. Okay? The cleansing, though, basically involves the decluttering of the mind through this practice of mindful breathing. And that's the first step toward developing even deeper and healthier meditative and calming practices. Okay? All right. And so quieting the mind then is just one aspect, arguably the most important, kind of like quitting smoking. But once you've done that, the question then becomes, what else can you do, freed of that burden? Okay? What more could you do if you were to develop then a healthier habit of quieting the mind and practicing mindful breathing? What can you learn from that, and what can you then do next to enhance this practice in your mental health even further? So that's where we'll pick up next week as we continue our journey to reclaim our mental health. But as ever, in the meantime, may you and yours continue to create peace in your lives, nurture love in your hearts, and dole out hugs in abundance. And if you haven't already, be sure you start today or tonight with your first session of mental flossing or mindful breathing. Ciao for now.